He wasn't wearing a mask. The women saw his face. They heard his voice. They watched him move. And somehow, he still disappeared. This is the story of the Lane Bryant Massacre. And I'll be honest, it just doesn't sit right. It was a normal Saturday, February 2nd, 2008. Tinley Park, Illinois. It was suburban, it was quiet. The kind of place where Saturdays are predictable. Shopping centers, coffee cups, mothers and daughters browsing the racks of the store. The Lane Bryant set in a strip mall. There's a bright interior, familiar retail calm. It opened at 10 a.m. Inside that morning, Gwen Pogue, Jennifer Hudson, Maddie O'Connell, Paula Serrano, and Bev Washington. Ordinary women, ordinary day. Right. Nothing about that morning even suggested violence. Nothing suggested it would end up in one of the most haunting, unsolved mass shootings in modern American retail history. 10:44 a.m. A man walks into the store. He didn't rush in. Didn't draw attention. He looked like somebody's boyfriend. Maybe somebody waiting while a partner shopped. Witness description said later that he was a black male between 25 and 35, 6 feet tall, braided hair, clean, calm demeanor, no mask, no panic, and just approached the counter and asked for help. Then he pulls out a handgun, just like that. He ordered the women to the back of the store in the rear stockroom. And the employees, they knew that place well. Boxes, metal shelving, the bathroom. And then he demands money. He seemed composed, not frantic, not shouting. And that detail matters. Because, let's be honest, panic leaves evidence. Calm leaves control. And he bound the women with duct tape, their hands, their feet, and forced them into the bathroom. And they complied. Because in moments like that, compliance feels like survival. And he took cash from the registers. Investigators later said it wasn't even a large amount, under $500. Not the kind of money you kill 5 people over. And yet, inside that back room, something shifted. After the robbery should have ended, he shot them. One by one. 5 women at close range. No warning, no negotiation. One survived. Jennifer Hudson. She had been shot and left for dead, bound. And somehow she managed to free herself. So she calls 911. Her voice on that call was controlled, but fractured, of course. When police got there, they found 5 victims. 4 dead, 1 clinging to life. The shooter? Gone. Just gone. No vehicle description. No name. No license plate. Just a man who walked in at 10:44 a.m. and walked out. And honestly, that's the part that unsettles people. He didn't rush. He didn't heavily disguise himself. He didn't panic. He just simply left. Now, let's slow down and zoom out a bit. This wasn't a rural highway. This was not an abandoned warehouse. It was a suburban shopping center. Saturday morning, people close by, stores open, cars in the parking lot, and no one saw him clearly enough to stop him. No one followed. No one memorized his tags. It's the kind of randomness that unsettles a whole community. Because if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. Now, before we walk further into this case, let me pause for a second. When something like this happens, it kind of fractures the idea of normal, the idea that certain spaces are safe. And there's something grounding about building things that don't fracture under pressure. That's why I appreciate the folks at Souls Works on Etsy, because craftsmanship requires patience, deliberation, and care, the opposite of chaos. So if you're looking for some solid built products, go check out Souls Woodworks on Etsy. Now back to that back room. Jennifer Hudson survived. Her testimony shaped the whole investigation. She described him as calm, not angry, not frantic. He spoke clearly. He gave instructions. There was no racial slurs being shouted, no rambling, just methodical control. And that detail matters too. Because this didn't feel like a robbery gone wrong. It felt deliberate. And here's where the case deepens. He didn't sexually assault anybody. He didn't vandalize. He didn't linger a long time after he shot him. He left. Which raises a hard question. Was robbery even the real motive? Or was that just part of the staging? Now, as for the investigation, the police worked fast. Tinley Park is not unfamiliar with law enforcement presence. And then the FBI they joined in. Sketches were released and security cameras from nearby stores were reviewed. DNA was collected. Fingerprints, ballistics. They had shell casings. They had the duct tape. They had a description. They had a survivor. And still, no arrest. Tips flooded in. Thousands of tips flooded in. Some of them promising. Some wild. At one point, the police thought they were close. They questioned suspects tied to other crimes. They pursued leads that involved similar robberies, but nothing stuck. And there's something particularly disturbing about unsolved cases where the suspect wasn't hiding. He showed his face. He spoke plainly. He existed in that room. And then he vanished into ordinary life. The composite sketch was everywhere. News, billboards, local television. People stared at it, And many thought, I know that face. But recognition and proof are two different things. The DNA profile collected from evidence was entered into CODIS, and that's the national database on DNA. No match, not then, not now, which suggests something really chilling. Either he had no prior record or his DNA had never been collected. Which means he could still be out there, living normally, working normally, driving normally, while 5 families never healed. But before we move further, I want to take a breath. And there's something about slowing down that steadies the mind when you're walking through stories like this. Our friends at the Gatlin Brother Tobacconists understand that pace. They curate blends meant to be experienced, not rushed. In this case, it demands the same pace. Because if you rush it, you miss the questions hiding underneath. Go check them out in the Mountain Mall on Level D in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Back to the story. Was it random? Investigators never found evidence that the victims were personally targeted. There was no prior threat. Nobody had a known stalker. No connection between the shooter and the women, which really suggests randomness. But randomness can feel too simple. So, some theories suggest he intended to leave no witnesses. He panicked. He escalated. But here's what really doesn't align. He didn't appear panicked. He was controlled from entry to exit. That doesn't suggest emotional eruption. That suggests intention. So why kill? Robbery for under $500? In broad daylight? In a populated shopping center? That's a high risk for a very low reward. Unless robbery wasn't the point. Unless control was. Unless killing was part of the plan. That possibility shifts the entire tone. It moves the crime from impulsive to premeditated. And that's dark. Of course, Tinley Park changed after that. Retail employees felt completely different. Store managers changed their protocols. Morning shifts didn't feel routine anymore. And the families of the victims waited. And waited. And waited. While years passed. Anniversaries came and went. Police held press conferences. We're still investigating. We're reviewing evidence. We believe someone knows something. But no arrest. Let me pause here one more time. If you've ever stopped at a local market before heading somewhere, just to grab something quick, there's comfort in those normal moments. The kind of stop that feels ordinary. That's why places like Ball Market number 3 in Knoxville matter. Because they represent normalcy. The kind of normal morning that those 5 women expected. The kind of normal that was taken from them. Support the places that still feel steady. So let's zoom in on something. The psychological layer. The shooter chose a woman's clothing store. Late morning, mostly female staff. Did that matter? Was it coincidence? Investigators never confirmed motive beyond robbery. But criminologists often ask a couple of questions. Was there symbolic targeting? Was he selecting vulnerability? The execution style, nature of the killings, I mean, that really suggests personal control. Without communication, though, without manifesto, without confession, we're just left with speculation. And speculation is dangerous because it fills silence with noise. Now there's the DNA. And this is what keeps this case from fading. DNA exists. That means science could still solve it. If he's ever arrested for something else, if he's ever processed, if familial DNA connects him, this case could still break open tomorrow. That possibility still hangs there. Unfinished, unresolved. So, the lingering question, the most unsettling detail, he wasn't wearing a mask. He didn't really expect to be recognized, or believed he wouldn't be. That suggests one of two things: extreme arrogance or extreme confidence. And confidence often comes from prior experience. Was this his first crime? Or is it just simply the first one we know about? 5 women walked into work that morning. 1 customer walked in to shop. None of them knew they were stepping into the last hour of their lives. There's no dramatic final words. No heroic standoff. Just a back room. Duct tape. Gunshots. And a man who walked away. As of today, no arrest, no conviction, no public suspect. The case remains open, which means somewhere out there is a man who knows exactly what happened in that stockroom. And he has lived with that knowledge all this time. The women's families live with something else. Absence. And unanswered questions. An empty chair at holidays. And the echo of a morning that should have been ordinary. Some crimes feel chaotic. This one feels really deliberate. And that's what makes it really heavy. Because deliberate evil is hard to dismiss. It doesn't explode. It chooses. If you listen this far, stay. Because we don't rush through stories like this. We don't sensationalize them. We sit with the weight. And we remember the names. Gwen Poe, Jennifer Hudson, Maddie O'Connell, Paula Serrano, and Bev Washington. 4 lost, 1 survived, and a question still open. Who was he? If you believe stories like this deserve attention, like and subscribe, and share the Pine Grove Briar, because some cases fade, and some shouldn't. As a side note, some of the names in this episode have been fictionalized to protect the identity of the victims. This has been the Pine Grove Briar. Until next time, keep your pipe lit and your powder dry.